So ladies and gentlemen, I made over $500,000 at 21 years old, and I'm going to tell you something that might surprise you. I made almost every mistake possible with that money. The kind of mistakes that could have completely derailed my future if I hadn't caught them when I did. Now look, initially I didn't really want to make this video because, well, it's not very glamorous to only talk about my mistakes and my failures, but I still feel like it can help some of you guys watching this who might be in a similar situation or who is going through similar things I went through. Plus, I also feel like it's a great refresher and a great reminder for everyone, regardless of what stage you're at in your business. Let's get into it. Now look, I know what you might be thinking. This is going to be another one of these videos where some kid flexes his success and pretends to be humble while actually bragging. But trust me, it's really not the case here, and actually it's quite the opposite. This is just me opening up about my financial life and showing you the exact mistakes that nearly cost me everything, mistakes also that 95% of young entrepreneurs make when they start making serious money online for the first time. Because here's the cold hard truth. Making money is actually the easy part. Keeping it, growing it, and using it as a tool instead of a trophy, that's the hardest part, and that's where most people fail. So in December 2022, when I just turned 19 years old, I hit my first $10,000 month from my Instagram business. By 21 years old, as of now, today, I've made over $500,000 from this business. On paper, it sounds like I was successful, but behind the scenes, I was making some critical errors that were silently compromising my future. So in this video, I'm going to break down the 5 biggest financial and business mistakes I made after making serious money at a young age. And I want to be clear about something. I'm not sharing this again because I think I'm special, right? It's not the case. I'm just sharing this because I genuinely wish someone had sat me down and told me these exact things before I started making real money. It would have honestly changed everything for me. So whether you're already making good money or not, this video is the financial education you probably never received. So let's get into it. The first and the most dangerous mistake I made was spending far too much of what I earned. And I need to give you guys some context about why this happened. I didn't come from money, right? I come from a very modest background, but I remember very vividly just watching and, hearing my classmates in class talking about their next vacations, going to the ski trips in the Alps or going to the USA for holidays. And meanwhile, my idea of a vacation was, if I was lucky, was maybe to go visit my grandparents in another part of France. And look, I'm not complaining because I had a great childhood, but there was always this sort of like gap between what others had and what I had. And so when I finally started making serious money at 19 years old, something sort of like interesting happened psychologically, right? I feel like it was all of those years of watching from the sidelines that created this sort of like void that I felt compelled to fill, if that makes sense. So I dropped out of university when I hit my first $10,000 month in December 2022. And for the next few months, I can tell you that I treated my new income like a dream came true. After working relentlessly for a year, I felt like I deserved to celebrate, sort of. So I spoiled my family, I upgraded my entire wardrobe with expensive clothes, and I also moved to Tokyo on a whim, and I spent 2023 traveling across Asia, so South Korea, Hong Kong, Singapore, Thailand, Japan, and just having as many experiences as possible. I was just craving seeing the world and going to places I'd never been before, right? And again, I don't regret this at all because I made some of the best memories of my life during that time. But here's the reality check, right? I was spending about 80% of what I was earning, and some months I was spending even more than what I made. Quite truthfully, during that time, I barely saved anything, right? And when I got back to Paris in December 2023, I bought my first sports car in cash, which is a Mercedes that cost me a significant chunk of my savings. Now, again, I do want to be clear about something. I'm not saying do not enjoy your money. I'm not saying live like a monk and save every penny, right? But what I'm saying is there needs to be balance, and my balance was completely off. Because look, the truth is when you start making good money, you need to live below your means for some time and not at them or above them, just below your means. And doing this will develop the best and the most important skill you can have, which is delayed gratification and patience. If you can delay gratification for just 1 to 2 years, save your income and not fall into the trap of spending money to impress people you don't even know on the internet, you will have a much brighter future. Warren Buffett has a quote that I wish I understood earlier, which is, if you buy things you don't need, soon you will have to sell things you need. And while I never got to that point, thankfully, I was certainly on that path. Now, thankfully, it didn't take me long to learn this lesson because this year I'm buying my first real estate and I'm trying to invest my money in the better places. But imagine where I would be if I had started investing from day one, right? Imagine if I just put even 50% of my income into assets instead of experiences and material things, right? I would likely have double the net worth I have today. And that's sort of like a sobering thought. But again, I would not have the same experiences as I had when I was, traveling across Asia and traveling in different countries and meeting so many interesting people. So it's sort of like a, weird balance, and you just have to find the fine line between, saving your income and trying to make good financial decisions while also living your life and just enjoying your 20s. Because again, that's something you will never get back. You can always get money back, but you will never get your 20s back. The second critical mistake I made was getting way too comfortable way too fast. And this one is very dangerous because it's just so subtle. Look, I come from a town in the suburbs of Paris where most people never really make it out. The average kid my age right now is studying a very mediocre degree in a very mediocre university with no real goals or actual ambitions, right? Like just lacking critical thinking and having a very narrow vision of life. And to be fair, that's the case for most of my friends from my hometown. But let me be clear about something. I do not believe in the whole idea of just stop talking to your old friends and only talk to people making money. Like that's just some nonsense that people preach, and that's just so freaking stupid, because I think it's incredibly selfish to abandon people who were there for you when you had nothing, right? Even if your friends are not in the same exact, field as you, or they don't have the same ambitions, it doesn't mean you just stop talking to them. Like that's just straight up retarded in my opinion. But here's where the real danger lies. When your entire reference point for success is a mediocre environment, even modest success can make you feel like you've made it. So to me, for example, earning just $3,000 a month, which is considered a high salary in France, funnily enough, was already mind-blowing to me. And quite truthfully, once I had my first $10,000 a month, I just thought that I was set for life. I realized that I was in the top 1% of earners in France, and I just slowly stopped working as seriously on my business, which, you guessed it, inevitably made me less money, right? And so it just became this endless cycle where I would work super hard creating content on Instagram, signing brand deals, getting sales. Then once I had 10K a month, I would just stop pushing. I would relax, I would coast, right? And then my income will drop again. So I would just work hard again. And this cycle kept me stuck at the same income level for months when I could have just been scaling it to new heights. Now, the solution for this is, in my opinion, very simple: travel. Right? Go travel the world. Just go to big cities, go to places where real wealth exists. See with your own eyes the level of wealth that exists out there. If you stay in your hometown, you will just stay comfortable, and you'll see just even 3K a month as something amazing, and you won't think you need to make more, and you will just never push past your current ceiling because you don't even realize there's a ceiling. Now, I'm living in Dubai where there's so much wealth that I'm just constantly motivated to just scale my income, improve myself, and just reach new heights in general. So your environment shapes your ambition. Remember that. As I think Jim Rohn said famously, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. But I would add to that you're also the average of the environments you expose yourself to. Now, this one sort of ties back to mistake number 1, but I do believe it deserves its own section because it's just so important and very common among young entrepreneurs, right? So the moment I had my first big month, 10K, 20K, I just rewarded myself so fast. Expensive clothes, a brand new car, luxury trips, eating out every single day. And I remember I just told myself these sort of usual justifications, which were, I'm just celebrating my success, I worked hard, I deserve it, and it's motivation to keep me going. But the truth is, I was buying things to prove to others that I had made it, instead of using money as a tool to buy freedom. There's a sort of a psychological aspect to this that nobody really talks about online, right? When you've been the kid without money and suddenly you have it, there's this almost irresistible urge to show everyone that you've made it, to prove to all those classmates who had what you didn't that now you've made it. And honestly, that's something I wish I understood earlier, which is the people who are actually wealthy, they're not the ones constantly flexing on social media. Not that I was, but it's a very important lesson still, right? Real wealth is quiet, it's just patient, and it compounds over time, and it's not here to just show off to people you don't even know online. So the lesson here is that every dollar you spend trying to look rich is a dollar that could have been making you actually rich. Robert Kiyosaki talks about this in Rich Dad Poor Dad, which is that poor people buy liabilities that they think are assets. That was the case for me when I bought my Mercedes, right? I just thought that, it was a very, unique car, and it was a collection car, and it's going to go up in value. And, even if it does, I was still, spending money to maintain it, like insurance, fuel, maintenance, all those things. So I was just trying to reassure myself because I bought a very big liability, and I was just trying to tell myself that it was assets that could just make me more money when I will, sell it. But that's not the case. And again, there's nothing wrong with buying a sports car. I don't regret it because I'm a huge car head, and I love this car. It just made me so much amazing memories. But you just have to be honest about what you buy. Is it an asset? Is it a liability? Just don't fall in the trap of just trying to convince yourself that the liabilities you buy are assets, because they're not. And again, nothing wrong with buying liabilities, but you need to have the assets to back it up, if that makes sense. And I didn't. So poor people buy liabilities that they think are assets, and rich people buy assets that generate more assets. That's the same for the expensive clothes, and that's the same for the travels, and that's the same for everything I bought. They're not assets, right? They're just expenses that return nothing. I mean, they do return experiences, but nothing when it comes to money. Meanwhile, every dollar I could have put into real estate, stocks, or back into my business would have been working for me and multiplying over time. Now again, am I saying never buy nice things? No, but what I'm saying is there's a time and a place for luxury, and it's after, and I'm just trying to emphasize this, it's after you've built a solid foundation of real wealth, not before. Buy your first luxury watch when you have at least 10 rental properties, not when you have your first 10K a month. Buy your dream car when you have a portfolio generating passive income that exceeds your expenses, and not when you just sign your first big client. And that's the difference between looking wealthy and being wealthy, and that's a distinction that took me just too long to understand, quite truthfully. Now, I want to make this clear again. This idea that you should drop your old friends just because they're not entrepreneurs or on the same wavelength as you is just complete nonsense, right? I think it's extremely important to have friends from very different circles, because right now, for example, I have friends who are doctors, I have friends, working as cashiers back in my hometown, I have friends still unsure which studies to pursue, and I have friends making over 100 grand a month from their online businesses. And the thing is, I get along with all of them and I can adapt to any environment, and it's a very important skill to develop, because if you just stay around people from a very tiny specific background, you will never be able to adapt to different circles. So once you meet someone who's at like higher levels than you won't even know how to act, and you will just be awkward because you're just so used to being around people who were miles below you. Now here's the mistake that I made here. I didn't connect with as many people as I should have who were ahead of me on the path I wanted to walk. So for example, in 2023, when I started making 10K a month consistently, I could have just very easily reached out to people who were levels ahead of me and developed relationships with them, right? People making 50K, 100K a month, or even $1 million a month, right? But I didn't, and I only had my same old friend circle, which again isn't bad, but you always have to expand and meet new interesting people. And there's a book that quotes, "You're one coffee discussion away from meeting the right person that will change your entire life." And that's absolutely true. Your network is your net worth, and while you should never abandon the people who were there for you when you had nothing, you should still always be expanding your circle upwards. So just think about it this way, right? If you want to climb a mountain, would you rather get advice from people who still at base camp with you, or someone who's already reached the summit? Both perspectives have value, but if you only have people at base camp around you, you're missing crucial insights about what lies ahead. Now, I'm not saying become a networking robot who only values people for what they can do for you, because I absolutely hate it, but it means just genuinely connecting with people who inspire you and who challenge you and who have achieved what you want to achieve, right? And the thing is, most successful people are actually very willing to help those who are coming up behind them. But you have to take the initiative to reach out first and to provide value first, and just to build that relationship on a solid foundation, not just being like, hey, I need help on this, can you just help me out like that? That's just not how it works, right? You just need to be genuinely interested and inspired by the person you're reaching out to, because otherwise, it just feels like a one-way transaction, which again, isn't good. Now, this one hurts because I knew I should have done it. I actually knew it, right? And this wasn't a mistake of just ignorance. It was a mistake of just straight up procrastination, to be honest. I had momentum and I had attention, and I also had people literally asking me to teach them what I know. And I just let all of that traffic just come and go like it was nothing. No system to capture it, no way to follow up. And I told myself that I will start later because I'm too focused on content right now. And the truth is, building an audience without an email list is like pouring water into a bucket with a hole at the bottom. No matter how hard you work to fill it, it just keeps leaking. My Instagram was blowing up, my posts were going viral, and I had no real way to keeping in touch with the people who were interested in what I had to share. No way to just build real loyalty, right? No way to pitch something properly when I launched my first digital product. So if I had started capturing emails from day one, I would have made way more money than I had now, and built way more trust, and just overall had way more control over my business, and just not relying 100% on a social media algorithm, right? And as of right now, my email list is still one of the most valuable assets in my business, because it's direct, it's personal, and it's mine, right? You have to understand that social media is borrowed land. Your followers aren't really yours, right? They just belong to Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. The algorithm can kill your reach overnight. Your account can get shadow banned. Who knows what can happen, right? And you can also get hacked, for example. And just like that, your entire audience is gone, right? But your email list, that's your assets. There's no middleman, there's no algorithm, there's no platform deciding who sees your content. When someone gives you their email, they're just basically raising their hand and saying, hey, I actually want to hear from you directly. Because you're not fighting for attention in a sea of reels, memes, and instructions, right? You can just build trust, nurture a relationship, and sell with intention. Look, email will always convert better than any other social media channel. It's how I sell my course. It's how I get my coaching clients. It's how I've made tens of thousands of dollars in sale without needing a single viral post. The funny thing is that some creators think that having an email list is outdated, that it's boring, that it's just not worth their time. But the truth is, every single top creator I know and every single 7-figure personal brand owner I know has one thing in common. They all build their email list and they all have access to their customers by email. Because look, here's something that just blew my mind and I think is going to blow yours too, right? Email is where people are in a buying mindset. Because just think about this. When was the last time you bought something while scrolling Instagram at 2 a.m.? Probably never, right? But when you're checking your emails and reading your emails, for example, in the morning or evening, whatever it is, you're in a different mental state. You're more focused, you're more receptive to offers, and you're more likely to have your credit card ready. And this is why email marketing still has one of the highest ROIs of any digital marketing channel. So yeah, I left all of that money on the table for months because I was just too lazy to just set up a proper email system. So again, don't make the same mistake, please. Again, this is an extension of mistake number 1, but I think it deserves its own section because it's very critical and I want you guys to understand this. Like, please just get it, right? When I started making good money, I had this vague notion that I should be investing, but I didn't take concrete action on this. I didn't educate myself about investment vehicles, I didn't set up systematic investment plans, and instead I just kept most of my money in a checking account where it was just constantly tempting me to spend it and where inflation was slowly eroding its value, which is, again, not a good thing to have. Now, the truth is, your 20s are the most powerful time to invest because of the magic of compound interest. Every single dollar you invest at 20 is worth approximately $10 at 60, assuming average market returns. So let me put this into perspective, right? If I had invested just 30% of my income from the beginning, let's say, for example, 3K a month, and on an average 8% return, that money would be worth over $1.5 million in 20 years. So a simple rule that I wish I'd followed from the beginning is the 50-30-20 rule. So 50% of your income goes to necessities and basic living expenses. 30% goes to investments and wealth building. 20% goes to lifestyle, fun, and discretionary spending. If I had followed this very simple framework from the beginning, I would have been automatically building wealth while still enjoying my money. But instead, my ratio was more like 70% lifestyle, 20% necessities, and maybe 10% investments, if that. And again, that's the recipe for just long-term financial struggle, no matter how much money you make. So the lesson here is to set up an automatic investment system from the very beginning. Make wealth building automatic, not something you do with whatever is left over at the end of the month. So there you have it, the 6 biggest mistakes I made after making $500,000 at 21 years old. Now, if I could go back and tell my 19-year-old self one thing, it would be this. Money is a tool, not a trophy. Use it to build more tools, not to show off. Now, the good news is I learned these lessons pretty early enough because I'm still 21 years old and I'm still on track to achieve all my goals. And as of right now, I'm more focused than ever on building real wealth and not just income or showing off, right? And if you're watching this and you're just starting out on your journey, you have a very big advantage that I didn't have, which is you get to learn from my mistakes without making them yourself. So if you want to become successful and build long-term wealth, please, for the love of God, apply what I teach in this video because that will change your life. And honestly, that's something I wish I knew about. Thanks for watching and I'll see you guys in the next one.